Hello, everyone, and welcome to Canadians with Disabilities and their Allies. My name is Brent Frain. I'm the host, and today I have Dan Trays joining me from Toronto, Ontario. Dan's going to be talking about the mayoral by-election, and that's going to be very interesting to hear his take on what is going on in Toronto. It's going to be a nail-biter, I'm sure. And he's going to talk about a little bit about PWD stuff. So I'm really looking forward to it. And so here we go. Dan, welcome to today's podcast.
Before you start, Dan, we just have to say that you've done a hostile takeover of the mayor's office. We can see.
Oh, there you are. Yes.
Well, there's one thing. There's going to be no swear jar today because apparently that's not allowed here. But I'm coming to you live from what's known as the SCC, the Scarborough Civic Center. I'm in one of the mayor's boardrooms here. I just thought it would be a good place to do the podcast from, especially today on the by-election day. It's a pretty close race. Woke up this morning and I think Olivia Chow is leading by about 5 percentage points over Anna Bailau. Mm-hmm. So it is apparently a two-pony race here, and I just hope that by the end of the night we have a mayor that's actually going to give a beep about the homeless and PWDs and everything else that's important in our city.
Mm-hmm. That's a big chair that you got there.
Well, if I don't know how to do this properly, so forgive me if it messes up, but that big chair is one of plenty.
Wow.
I was going to say we can call you Captain Picard.
There you are.
Yeah.
Make it so, number one.
Yes,
and
the captain.
And this cabinet back here is just a couple of keepsakes that, like, you have various groups that'll come in or from overseas or what have you, so they'll bring the city a gift. Mm-hmm. And of course, a couple of our flags over there for Toronto and Ontario.
That's very impressive. Very impressive. Yeah, it's going to be quite a nail biter, I'm sure. And selecting the person to fit the position.
Well, I think it's going to come down to the wire. Both candidates there, and I'm not trying to discount other candidates, but I believe at last check Olivia was at whatever, let's say 35%, and Anna was at 30%. And the rest are all down in single digits. So we had my last check, we had a turnout of early voting. I think it was about 130,000 people.
Wow.
So it's like I said, it's a two-pony race. And I just want people to listen and make a choice based upon what works best for the city. I think there's too much of this going back and forth, too many people positioning themselves, for certain positions. But both candidates are great candidates. They're both blasts from the past, so to speak. Olivia has, 3 or 4 decades under her belt, the wife of the late Jack Layton. And Anna Bailau was a councillor, I believe, for about 12 years. She headed the housing portfolio for 10. Good job, bad job, depending on who you talk to.
Mm-hmm.
I just hope for the best. Like, to me personally, I got no skin in the game. I don't care who becomes mayor, to be honest with you. I will tell you up front, my vote was for Anna Bailau, just based upon what I know. But that's what I encourage everybody to do. Even if you haven't voted yet, just take a little time today, because the polls are open till 8. Just take a little time to go out and read up on them, read up on what they're going to do. Yeah, and that's basically about my thoughts on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't get out there and vote, then what? I mean, there's nothing to really to bitch and complain about if you don't you don't get out there, right? I mean, because people say, well, so got in. Well, did you vote? No.
Yeah, that's what my parents always told me is like if you don't vote, you have no right to complain at all. So shut up.
Exactly.
Well, that's exactly what it is, right? And I'm going to take this opportunity to owe you guys $20. If you don't vote, you can't bitch. And what I've been telling people since last year is we had 2 elections last year, one for the province, one for the city. And 29% of people showing up, but like 75-80% of people complaining just doesn't add up, right? So somebody's not telling the truth somewhere, right? So like me, for example, in my neighborhood, I have 8 polling stations right in a 1-block radius. So anybody in my neighborhood that is mobile and says that they can't go vote or don't want to go vote, zip it, zip it, because this city is going too far down to allow another 3.5 years of not doing anything. So we got to work well with whoever does get in, and just make it a team effort, right? Otherwise, it's just going to be. You might as well put it in a silent movie.
We have a question from chat, Dan, and you told me that I should tell you whenever there is a question. We have a question from Elaine Sharp, and she's asking how many eligible voters are there in Toronto? Do you know offhand?
So in Toronto, there's 3.5 million people, somewhere around there. Wow. I'm gonna guess a little over 1 million. I don't know the exact number.
Okay.
To be honest with you, but
Google
like
it, Brent.
The early voting. I don't have a computer here, or else I'd do it for you. But like I said, I think they said last night when I checked it was 140, 150,000, somewhere around there. Early voting already cast.
Okay. I'll see if I can find it.
I'm gonna suggest somewhere around 1 million or more for actual eligible vote.
Eligible voters, yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't sure on the count from last time, but I remember the last election, whenever it was, the last full mayoral election, before the last one actually. So it was in 2018, I believe. Mayor Tory got like 220,000 votes, and second place person. There was like a total of like 500,000 or 600,000 votes. Wow. So of a city of 3.5 million people, only 500,000. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm trying to Google it, and it's not an easy thing to find actually. It's not in my face. I can't find it. I had to like really dig. So
I'm gonna say 1 million or a little bit more, because you got to remember too, right? Like we're a pretty diverse city, right? So I think it's 52% of the city is made up of people that were not actually born here. So we got to take all those considerations into factor. The past couple of years, we've had a lot of influx of people coming to the province and the city. So there's probably not an exact count on it yet, but I know, like, for example, if you don't have all your paperwork in order, if you're not a citizen, what have you, you're not voting, right? But you're still a resident that needs to be served by these elected officials. So your input is key into this election.
We have a second comment already from Just Me, and I don't know who this person is, but Just Me says
I do.
Residents and people from people who own property in Ontario can vote as well.
Oh, well.
Yeah, so it's basically if you're if you see how the election rules go, you got to live in the city, you got to own property or rent property, what have you, in the municipality you want to run in. That's basically what it is. The basic election rules are what it is to vote. So you got to be 18 or over. You got to have an address in the city. You have to, I think you got to bring one piece of ID and or your voter card to vote. Yes, they have a full list there. But yeah, Just Me is exactly right. You have to be a registered voter first. You can't just walk in and say, I live at 123 Scarborough Boulevard.
Yeah.
No, you have 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, they always check your address, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So I would say your best bet, like everybody should have got their voting cards. I don't know. go, right? So your best bet would be, if you don't have your voter card, show up with as much ID as you can. Play it like you're going to the airport. So have your address on it, what have you, and they should get you in if you're an eligible voter yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, where are you going? How long are you going to stay? I mean, who are you voting? Yeah, not who are you voting for? Because that's, but yeah, I know what you mean. Like, have all your particulars in place, and all the dots dotted and the T's crossed, right? I mean, and get out there and vote, because it's very important to it's your right to vote, right? If you don't vote, like we said, there's no point bitching, complaining, because I mean, it's especially with the influx amount of people that are coming into into your region, and each province. There's a lot of influx going back and forth right now, right? And,
well, Elaine Sharp actually had a follow-up question, and maybe this will tie into it. Is that she said, in my opinion, people who do not live there. So I guess he's talking about empty home syndrome, right? Right. She says, in my opinion, people who do not live there should not be allowed to vote. So, and that's an interesting take. And actually, Just Me says, I agree, Elaine. So, yeah. So
it is true. I would say, excuse me. I would say, for those people that state that, it's absolutely true. But there's also people that own property here that are, how would you say, like they don't leave it vacant. They're not waiting for the big rich, right?
Right.
So I personally believe that those people have a right to vote too. They're paying taxes. Garbage is being picked up at their properties. Water is being done at their property. Right. And that's what is entailed within the municipal voting, right? They take care of your garbage, your housing, your transit, your police. So in that regard, I believe they should have a vote, but it's those people, and I agree with, I think you said it was Just Me that said it. If you're not a participating member of our municipality, why even open your mouth? Just go over there. You know what I mean? Because it's not going to be affecting you or any resident in the area you live in.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they could have to the people that have sent the questions in on that. I mean, as an example, if the owner has now rented out their condominium or whatever it may be, right, a house, but they still own it, but now the renter's there. If that renter is actually has been renting it for a period of time, that renter now can actually vote. But technically, the owner who owns it, even though they may not live in it, renting it out, could vote. But yeah, I see Dan's point on that, Dan. I mean, that's definitely.
Well, see, and that's the other thing too, right? Is that it's necessarily that renter is not necessarily going to be a voter, right? Because that could be a person that has just come here and rented the property because they're new here and they don't have any connection yet, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, if you're owning property and you're an active participating member in the community, then you better vote, because it's your property taxes that are going to be going up, right?
And what about candidates that don't actually live in Toronto? Because we have a follow-up question from Just Me that says, we have candidates like Chris Sky that can run for office and they don't even live in the province.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so this is where I grow fear of being fired, right? So Chris Guy. So basically, what happens is that his address is in King City, okay, and he also has an address in Leduc, Alberta. Somehow, some way, they had to have. I heard the rumor was that the wife somehow contacted a friend, what have you, and used that address as if they own. So if his wife owns property in Toronto, or he owns property with her in Toronto, he can still run in Toronto because he's a tax-paying member of Toronto.
Right.
But if he had no address in Toronto, he couldn't have just signed up from King City, which is like whatever, an hour and a half away, or Leduc, Alberta. He couldn't have just signed up like that to run for mayor of Toronto. You have to actually rent or own property in the municipality you want to run in.
Yeah, have a residence in each city and pay your taxes. If you own, you got to be paying your taxes, so you have that right to participate and vote, and your democracy, right? I mean, it's Yeah. So yeah.
Well, and I think those are rules that got to be looked at, right? Because
Yeah.
we've got a couple candidates. I mean, with 102 candidates, I'm surprised Fred Flintstone's not running, right? Like, I believe we even have a dog running, okay? But I think when it becomes to such an important position as mayor, it should be somebody that lives in this damn city. Because I know as a 3-time candidate for city council, one of the very first things people ask me, do you live in the area?
Yeah.
You live in the area? And if you say no, you might as well just quit.
Yeah. And of course, like me and Brent, we live on the West Coast here. But what as far as platforms go with the different candidates, what are they saying about things like homelessness and PWD concerns and things like that?
So I don't know Miss Bilau that well. I met her one time. I was with Scarborough Opening. And I'm going to use these people because we're on the last day, right? And there's 3 candidates. There's 3 candidates right now, right? So Miss Bilau was, like I said earlier, she did lead the housing portfolio. I'm sure you're going to get some comments right now, depending on who you talk to, right?
Send in your questions.
She did great, or she did, So, and I believe the only difference, the thing that's the killer here, that's going to be the difference, the flip a coin either way for me personally, is they're pretty much the same, And when I say that, I don't want to get the hate mail. It's not because they're female. I'm saying they're pretty much the same in the sense of how they do things, where Anna Bilau is a more progressive, on the fence kind of candidate, and Olivia Chow is straight up NDP, right? The problem is Olivia Chow through the whole thing has not stated once how much she's going to raise taxes by. Now, to some people that doesn't matter, right? But to others, like homeowners, they're sitting there going, so I just vote for you, and then tomorrow I got to pay a 50% tax hike, So to me, I think that's going to be the difference, and Ms. Chow being old school and Anna being fairly new, I think it's going to be who's best to pull out the vote. So contrary to what some of the comments I've heard earlier on Twitter there, people can campaign all day up until the last minute. The only place you can't campaign is on a polling station property, city-owned property. So they can go until 7:59 tonight, you know what I mean? Then boom, done. It's just going to be about who pulls out the vote. If the older voters actually get out and vote, if disabled people or those living in housing. One thing I will say before I go on, I encourage, here in Toronto, it's the election, so I encourage all the people in housing, all the disabled people that are mobile or have a way to get to it, get to a polling station, because these people are counting on you not going out and voting. That's what's happening. Right? They think, people in poverty, people with disabilities, they don't vote. Go fucking vote. Surprise the heck out of these people.
Exactly. Every vote counts. Every vote counts.
Every single one.
Yeah. I mean, and if you're disabled or you're homeless, but you want to vote and you're not able to get to vote, reach out. See who somebody can get you a ride there. Just do some networking, or if somebody knows somebody that's homeless. Let me put it this way. If somebody knows that somebody that's homeless or that's disabled that has no transportation or maybe has transportation but can't afford the transportation to get out to the polling station, offer them a ride if you can. If you can offer them a ride to get them there and get them from point A to point B so they can get out there and vote, please do. I mean, to 7:59 p.m. Eastern time, get out there and vote. Because Dan's right. I mean,
crip the vote.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, some of the elected officials, they're counting on you, Dan. I mean, you're right, and they're counting on people. They're not going to go there and vote. Their vote doesn't count. They're not taxpayers. Yes, they are taxpayers. They are damn well they're taxpayers.
Every time you go to a store and buy something, you're paying taxes. Every time you pay into a dental visit or medication or what have you, you're paying taxes, right?
Yep.
People that say, "Oh, my vote doesn't matter." Like today, even myself, I found myself saying, even though the polling station's at my building, I just might scrap it because it's bullshit. But nah, you can't. Yeah, even if I go in there and vote for Mickey Mouse today, or I encourage people to look at other candidates, such as look at Isabella Gamp, who does these protests that are literally bringing to light all the issues with poverty and ODSP. Look at candidates like that. Look at candidates like I don't remember her first name, but the last name is Cesar Chavez. Look at these candidates that Chloe Brown.
Mm-hmm.
I'm smiling under here. Look at all these candidates that you hear about. You never get the full Monty of. You never hear everything they're about because I hate to say it, but elections are run by media, man. It's that simple. Elections are run by media. Did you see an interview of, say, for example, Isabella or Chloe or Miss Chavez on CP24 or anything? No, you didn't see nothing. So how are you supposed to know unless you do your own homework, right? It's that simple. Otherwise, watch CP24 and watch City News, and you'll see who your next mayor is.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, the media outlets, they just package news up in 3-minute segments, eh? So it's just like, how many 3-minute segments can we run, and then you just throw it out there and say, there's the news of the day, but it's all spin, right?
Well, it is.
I put together 6, they call them programs, right? So you put together your little spiel that you want to do at each media place, and then you put it forwarded to the producers as segment producers, right? I put together 6 for today.
Oh, wow.
No phone call, no nothing. Here's Dan, ad-lib. Here's Dan, ad-lib with the tattoo. Here we are in the mayor's office. Not one. So to all those media people, I got something behind here for you. Oh, wrong way, eh? Media runs elections. So do your homework. And if you need help, one thing to track back on, if you need help today, some constituency offices will be able to help you with information. So if you call your local constituency office, there might be people in the neighborhood. For example, here in Scarborough, we have something called, and forgive me, their name, Scarborough Community Healthy Living or something like that. But anyway, they provide transportation for appointments and stuff like that. They do services like that.
Oh, nice.
The counselors' offices can't provide them directly, but if there's something in their area, they'll be able to guide you towards those people.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that too, because that's kind of what I was just going to mention. It must have been reading my mind, Dan. I was just like, there's that other source of transportation that for them to get to voting, right? Yeah, exactly.
If you could read my mind, love, what a tale my heart could tell. Just like a paperback
If anybody can read minds, we can skip election periods.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's there's so many candidates that to choose from. There are 3 candidates to choose from, but you got to do your homework. You got to read up on what are they going to do for represent the city, right? What are they going to do for housing? What are they going to do for homelessness? What are they going to do for your taxes? Like, so each one, if you haven't, read up and get out there and vote and pick the right one that you feel for yourself that's going to best represent you, like for what you want for in the city.
Well, especially in these municipal votes, right? Because
it's very important.
Technically, there's no parties in municipal voting, right? But anybody that's involved with politics, they know who stands with who, who sides with who. So, like you just said, in municipal voting, pick your person that's going to change your garbage issues, your street issues, your parking issues, your disabled issues. They work well with the provincial counterparts, the MPPs. Right now in our area, we're kind of stuck because our MPP here in Scarborough is running in the mayoral by-election. So, so what do you do there, right? But normally that's municipal election. It's all about your local issues that affect you on a daily basis. So I would, like you said, it's kind of late now, but still time. There's still a few hours now. Just do some homework. Those are the top 3 candidates that I see right now. Is Josh Manlow, Olivia Chow, and Anna Bailau. So unfortunately, with 102 candidates, that's all I can suggest to you today, because nobody can search 100 candidates in 7 hours.
Yeah, exactly. And so Dan, I guess we'll switch gears a little bit over to some of the PWD stuff that's happening out there too within the community.
C-22.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Well, yeah.
Hey, listen, I don't mean to laugh, but I saw so much crappy. It was either yesterday or the day before. I saw somebody say it's been 500 days. It's been 600. Nah, man, it's been like, I don't know, what has it been, 3 years, 4 years?
1,000 days almost, yeah.
1,000 days. And what I heard was, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but she said something along the lines of it's going to take another year and a half to see that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
So how did Sir get out there in a couple weeks?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's then the timing of it is as soon as the Senate had basically pushed it to royal assent. They agreed, let's get it to royal assent now, and right at that same time, as soon as they said, okay, well, that's done. Well, hey, quietly let's say, another 6 more months. Let's make it a year and a half.
There's that one song where you talk about CERB and you talk about the CDB. There's that song that was, one of these things is not like the other. One of these things is not the same. And it kind of feels exactly like that, eh? One of these things is not like the other.
Or what's the other song? Time after time.
Yeah.
You guys are either going to get me fired for mentioning Chris Sky or singing. One of them.
Well, I'm the one that's singing, so it's fine.
Cyndi Lauper, Time After Time.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
In a bottle.
It's hard because, especially in election times, right? Like, we all work on so many issues, whether it be Bill C-22, whether it be like one of your other guests, Jennifer, who does her mental wellness stuff, whether it be some other guests who do some basic info. Like, we all work so hard on this shit, and come election time, it seems like the 72-hour period before and after election, it's just a free-for-all of anybody saying what they want to get the person in. That's just not the way we're going to affect change, right? These were great news clips. I could sit here and talk trash about at least 25 of the candidates are up here now, right? That's not going to solve anything, right? We need somebody that's going to hit the ground running, whether on the municipal, provincial, or federal level, and then coordinate with each other. So whether it's a federal issue like C-22, whether it's a provincial issue like ODSP rates, or whether it's a municipal issue like, say, I don't know, parking issues on your street. Combine all those efforts, man, and then you'll turn that into this, right? All these people there, right? Like, far too often, especially here in Toronto, it's just, if it's not their idea, it's not a good idea.
Yeah, the thing that bugs me is you hear or you see lots of examples of the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing, and and then like to take Carla Quattro as an example too. Like she has that excuse of like, well, how do we know who's on provincial assistance? We have no way of tracking that, and it's like, well, really, where's the T5007? It's like, wow.
They've had years to figure that part out.
It's like, we have no idea. Sorry.
It's funny because I've had meetings with that, and they actually do know.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, if Carla said that, she's full of shit, because there was a time period a couple of years ago when I was on ODSP, and let's just say there were some federal liens on my income tax account. They sure as hell found out that I was on ODSP. So you can find out to take it, but you can't find out to give it.
Yeah.
It's just an excuse. Yeah, it's a total excuse, and
it's like the Three Monkeys. The see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil.
You might as well just do this.
Yeah.
And good work to you guys, by the way, on your little trip there to the BC legislature. I think it was. That was right on. And you guys got to meet with some people, and that's exactly what you got to do if you want to affect change, right? Get in there, know your stuff. And meet with the proper people. Like, for example, if you want to yell about your garbage, if that's a problem, you don't go to Premier Doug Ford's office or your guys' Premier out in BC. You go to the constituency office of the area that you have the problem in, right? Otherwise, you're just yelling into the air. You think if I call Doug Ford's office and start yelling about my garbage, he's going to give a shit?
No.
Contact his constituency staff.
I mean, recently we had a meeting. Jeff and Sonia and myself, we had a meeting for the minister with the minister and her staff in BC. The minister, just people are wondering, who's he talking about? The minister. I mean, there's lots of them. So the minister we had a meeting was the minister for disability, right? Mm-hmm. So we sat down and we had a half-hour meeting. It was very constructive meeting. Very professional, right? I mean, there was obviously things that I'm sure we all wanted to say, but we kept it very professional, but right to the point of that people are in legislated poverty. We don't need like a poverty reduction. We need to eradicate poverty, right? That part of the conversation didn't fully evolve because we had to stay very focused on what we wanted to see change. Right? We talked about housing. We talked about rates. We talked about a little bit about transportation, not be able to get to and from communities. There's obviously the same rhetoric, right? We're well aware of the consultations that we're doing, and that's great, and that's fabulous, right? But how do you conduct change now? But one thing we did as a takeaway, Dan, from the conversation that we had was. Of course, there's the LICO formula that when CERB came out, right? We all know what CERB, Mr. Trudeau said, his morning show, ever got up, the morning show, the Trudeau show, well, let's tune in. Maybe there's an announcement for PWD today. Nope, down the road, finally announcement. But at first, CERB came out, $2,000. People said, well, when do I get it? People kept saying, well, I don't qualify. Finally, he just said, you know what, just apply for it. We'll figure it out later. I remember that on the screen. He goes, yeah, like that. Well, we'll figure it out later. Okay, so then PWD said, well, we need money. Oh, okay, well, I mean, unless you made $5,000 the previous year, you don't qualify. Now, some people managed to get the money, right? Now there's repercussions going forward, okay? So with that being said, that amount was at $2,000 in 2020. So in 2021, the LICO formula was at 2202. Now, what we learned from our conversation in our meeting that we had is that Jeff had mentioned that the amount would be at 2202 based on 2021. That's 2 years ago, the formula. We were informed that the government, provincial and federal, are not going with the LICO formula. They're going with the market basket measure. Our jaws dropped. Like if I could see Jeff, it looked like he was a dune, like it was like a blossom tomato, like he was going to blow up.
He's going to age 10 years.
Like, yeah. I thought maybe I was just going to go like this and go boom, And because the fact is, the market basket measure is a different reading of the financial amount. And so what we were told is that they're going to be going with the gearing it toward the GIS, the OAS, what seniors get. So I did a little bit of homework after that, and Sonia contacted her parents and said, what do seniors get? So sounds like they're going to gear it to the amount what seniors get. And my theory on that would be that it's a little bit less. So I obviously know that we need to put pressure on the provincial governments, on your MLAs, your MPPs, your MPs. Keep pushing pressure on the provincial parts first and say, no, we need to get it up to no less and above, because people with disabilities, they have more expenses than just that bare minimum amount. Like, what is it? I think it should be a living wage income, not right at the poverty. So it needs to be up. So I'm really worried that some people are definitely going to fall through the cracks, because doing my calculations, it'll be like $200-300 more than what the provincial is giving. They're going to get it up to that level. That level meaning, who knows? I'm hoping that it's not 19. Right, that 19,000 could be 20,000 level. Even if it's 20 for parents, Sonia's parents had said that they figured 20,000 level. So if that's the case, that's not good. That's not good, folks. Right. So we need to really push the your local counterparts, whatever province you're in, tell them, show up at their constituency office and tell them it's not okay. It's not okay. Like, we need to get it up to the standard level of a living income for Canadians with disabilities in this country. So it's so important that when you vote in the Toronto mayoral by-election, you need to really look at what are they focused on? How are they going to make it affordable for you as a citizen? And that's just the one part, right? But they, like Dan, you're right. They have their connections on who who kind of represents them. Like, there's like a channel of which one are they more kind of geared to. Like, I guess whatever political party, maybe they're what they kind of represent, right? So, kind of do some digging at them, right?
What I thought was cool when you were talking about your meeting with Sheila Malcolmson, though, is that you said that she made the comment that, wow, Brent, you're really active on Twitter, and you got a feeling that she was actually looking at your videos and things like that, what we're doing on YouTube, and that's important, right? Because I always joke that wouldn't it be nice to get 1 million followers. But it's also important to know who is tuning in, like who.
Well, I found it very interesting, Neil, when I said her, like, she says, you are so active on Twitter, like, keep up your advocacy. And I said, I do the best I can, and I bring the awareness of all the inequalities. That's basically what I do. And she says, oh, I know. And I said, I have my podcast that I do on a regular basis. Some days, some weeks are busier than other weeks. And she says, oh, I know. Yeah. So that tells me, like, that's when I phoned you and I said, she knows. And so she knows what's going on, because they talk to the counterparts. Hey, I tune into this show, or maybe they weren't watching it live. They'll watch it later and they'll say, oh, wow, so this is what they're talking about, right?
And that to me is cool to know that
it is.
The important people are watching and listening, and taking it back to other people in the north. It's
like the bees. They take it back to back to our colony, right?
Yeah.
They take it back.
Sorry, Dan. I was just gonna finish up and say, even behind the scenes, we do what some people would say was silly stuff with your Breaking with Brent. Sometimes we get a little silly, but it's still important advocacy. Those segments. And one of the silly things that we've done behind the scenes was we've made Tim Hortons the unofficial sponsor and stuff like that. But I've also reached out to Michael Bublé, legitimately reached out to his publicist, and I am seriously trying to pursue him to get him on the show, because here's somebody that is a really he's got way more followers than we do, right? And you kind of need that. You kind of need somebody to step up and that has like a crap load of followers, that has a lot of like skin in the game, shall we say, to really pull some influence in. And so that's why I'm going after like these big reaches, right? Because I think it's important. Like, we can have fun, but it's important to get like really influential, allies on our side that can turn the tide for us, right?
Yeah, it's important to have fun, but at the same time, throw in I throw in serious kind of scenarios where when I do like even my coffee time with Brent, right? So I did this segment with the cereal that I had, the Tim Hortons cereal on there, and it was fun, but at the same time, I kind of threw in people who haven't tuned into coffee time with Brent, it's more of a relaxed scenario, but I kind of blended in the Tim Hortons one as a promotion, as a possible sponsor for us going forward.
Yeah.
But of showing people, hey, like, this is the cereal, like, this is what it's like. I mean, for me personally, I wouldn't go out of my way. I wouldn't say I would never, probably ever buy it again. It wouldn't be my go-to, but I wanted to try the cereal. If there was no other cereal around and that was it, I go to it. And I wanted people to kind of see what the cereal was like. So I got the texture of it. I got it out there, and it's like, here's crunch, crunch, crunch. It reminds me of, those, what's that cereal? Captain Crunch,
Oh, yeah.
or
Yeah.
the pop. It would say, I can't recall the name of it. It would say pop, P-O-P on the cereal box.
Yeah. Oh,
Corn Pops.
Corn pops.
Corn Pops.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
but that crunchy. It's that crunchy texture of it. It's a little bit sweet, but not overpowering. Like it's not like what do you call it? Fruit Loops. Not like it's kind of, but not quite like Fruit Loops. I was never really into eating Fruit Loop stuff. But getting back to the part of the meeting that we had too is one thing, and I want Dan's maybe your take on this. I really threw it out there, and I really got their eyes wide open on it. They were really surprised when I said this, because we're talking about housing affordability, and I said, $375 for shelter, right? And then Sonia mentioned 125 increase July 19th. And the minister acknowledged, yes, like you can't find housing for that. And I said, so I threw it out there, and everyone didn't even know what I was going to say. I just winged it. That's what I do on my shows too. I just wing it out. I don't have no script but I'm being respectful when I say these things, because I want to see people housed. I see people in tent cities, even in my city where I am in Victoria. The mayor says, oh, we can't have them in here. No, we got to take them out. Where are you going to put them, folks? Where are you going to put them? You're going to get them temporary modular housing? Like, that's a temporary fix. So why don't you give them permanent housing, so now they can be in, and if they need treatment, which I recognize that there are unfortunately, certain individuals that will need that extra help. There's and that's fine, right? Give them the treatment that they need, right? Work with that individual, work with them. Maybe they did construction for a living all their life. Maybe they did roofing. My gosh, they took painkillers. They became addicted to painkillers. Now they're on opioids. And there's so many scenarios of
that happens a lot, actually.
Yeah. I mean, and that's why now they say it's a crisis. Mm-hmm. Now, or were they just going to go and do drugs just because? No. Like, there are so many reasons why, but there's also many other reasons too. And I want people to understand this part too of why a person becomes homeless, right? I can tell you, I was homeless. People, what? I was homeless for 2 months. Okay, but I had a hotel that I was able to go to, so I wasn't on the street, but I was pretty close to it. Like, I had no fixed address. I had lost my place due to bed bugs. That's all it takes. It takes just one little thing, and thank gosh I was able to go. We stayed at Sonia's parents. They made accommodation for us. They made extra space in their home for us to go and stay in, and it was not very easy of being lectured, constantly of lecturing up. Well, why did you allow this to happen? Why did you allow this to happen? Well, it can happen to anybody at any time of situations. So it's like, take the first place that you find to rent. Well, we didn't want to take the first place we found to rent, because it's not always the best outcome. Anyway, so we got another place. So fast forward through time, is I see people in precarious housing. They're trapped in abusive relationships that they don't want to be in, but now they're trapped because if they don't, the government will now take away certain incomes if they don't have a fixed address, right? So that has to be fixed. That the marriage inequality, like, that issue is a huge issue, and it needs to be fixed across the country. So when I see someone homeless, I look at it as, did their building burn down? Did they have a wiring issue? Did their building get sold or condemned? There's so many reasons why they're in a tent, or maybe they can't afford the high rent. I mean, so the part of the meeting that I brought up was, I want to see rent geared to income. And that was a huge thing. They all looked at like, oh, I go, it can be done, because people then can stay in that housing that they're in, or maybe they can move to a different housing that maybe is maybe a little bit better, more modernized for them, or accessible wise because of their disability. Maybe it's more accessible, but they can't afford that high rent. So now they can have the same programs that seniors, single mothers, single fathers. A lot of provinces have that same program in place. It might be called something different in the province that you're watching this from. So I've actually recommended to the ministry in BC to extend that program over. I said in BC, we can call it, see right now, they'll say, well, in BC, what are they called? What's it called? Say, seniors get this called SAFERS, and single mothers, single fathers is called a RAP, not RAP, not that RAP stuff from, 1980s, No, it's the residential
ice baby.
Ice baby.
Oh, don't make me sing the whole song, eh?
Yeah. It's a residential assistance program, right? So I said, well, PWD. Well, what do we call it? We call it BC Awesome Program, BC Persons with Disabilities Star Program, whatever we want to call it. We can call it some unique name, but as an extension of the umbrella that the province has. Now, I know that Ontario has that too. It's like you've got the different housing providers, but it's like an umbrella, right? So BC has the same thing here. It's called BC Housing. Now, there's over a 10-year plus waiting list right now. Right now, last thing I was told, it's indefinite. It's so long that they don't even know how many people are on it. These stats, we always say 10-year waiting list, but you have to be unhoused in order to get on there. And I made a call. I was just curious, well, how do I get into it? Are you homeless? No, I live in housing. I just want cheaper housing. Well, it doesn't work that way, sir. You have to be unhoused. So I have to deliberately unhouse myself? But you're going to go on a waiting list for who knows how long. But we could get you into temporary shelter. A temporary shelter, well, there we go, right? So that's not going to work. So my recommendation was extend this program so that PWD now can get into housing that's better for them, and they can be in the community that they live in. They've got now more money in their pocket. They can put that money, instead of giving to a corporate landlord, back into the community that they live in, help small businesses. Maybe they can travel to another province to go and visit, Dan. Hey, Dan, hey, we're here to visit, right? Hey, we got more money. We can now go in and actually help other communities and other provinces. I think it's endless. I think it's a great opportunity to modernize our policies. And folks, it's all policies. That's all it is. So it doesn't matter which government that you vote for. It's that policy that's behind it. Now, it's what government is now going to work at that policy to change it.
Well, right? And the other piece of it too is you were talking about BC Housing, and actually Sheila Malcolmson, I know, made a comment too, but BC Housing is so inefficient that you sometimes wonder if there's hamster wheels that are running in the background to keep everything powered, because even Sheila Malcolmson, she said about the 125 increase, she says, well, we couldn't put it in earlier than July, because if we did, it would break the system, it would break the computer. And I'm thinking to myself, wow.
Yes, that's one thing that was brought up in the meeting, that the system is so old. Folks, it hasn't been updated since 2002.
Yeah.
That was the last time that the system was updated. It's an old system, and they're going to be coming out with a new system in about 2 years. They're working on a new system. It's going to be state of the art, but the system is run by an old computer, and they can't do major updates of things in the system. Of course, that's what they're telling us. What they're telling us.
But they can send out $2,000 a month in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
right?
well, that's what I mean.
Because the hamsters are working overtime, in the background.
Well, exactly. Well, what you need across the board is called CRGI, Canadian Rent Geared to Income. I just made it up off the top of my head.
Yeah.
This is the only thing that's going to work, right? It'll allow you to travel freely across the board, right? Yep. And it should give 33% rent, like 33% of your income to anybody that's earning $2,000 or less a month. And that should be across the board. So I'll give you that example very quickly before I take off. I'm sitting in this lovely office, right? This is where the mayor sits. The mayor will be sitting here discussing issues in Scarborough. But if I didn't have an RGI unit, I would be homeless. And that should be, this is why I chose to do this from this room today. Not, yay, me, to show people that, A, anything's possible. Like you guys know, I was homeless a couple decades. Anything is fucking possible. Yeah. But B, we need something going forward that's solid. I don't care if you're NDP, PC, Liberal. I don't care if you belong to the Rhinoceros Party. You need that universal rent geared to income, because without that, you can give everybody $10,000 a month in a check, and there's still going to be no solution to the problem we have, which is housing, right?
Yeah.
Which has spiraled over so many decades. And like you guys mentioned earlier, there's so many different issues, whether it be addictions, whether it be spousal abuse, whether it be parental abuse, whether it be anything. There's so many different things that spiral somebody into homelessness.
Oh, it's huge.
If those wraparound services aren't there when they become homeless, they're either going to be there till they die, or they're going to die early. Yeah, I don't know how else to put it. It's just that simple. I saw so much destruction of this stuff. But at the same time, I saw so many feel-good stories like yourself. You just said you were homeless as well. I was homeless. I know numerous people that work behind these walls that had some issues too. Yeah. It's all a matter of the services you have and what you do with it, the support you have, right? I had a great family. My family was awesome. They pretty much said, take a hike, pal. We'll help you with anything you need, food, what have you. But until you fix yourself, you're not our burden. You're our son, you're our brother, you're our everything. But until you fix yourself, what can I do for you? So that's key, right? And especially today, in today's election, like I said, it doesn't matter if you're NDP, PC, what have you. Just look at the issues that these people have focused on. And then, okay, which person is going to do X, Y, Z for me? Because somebody that's not talking to you about your property taxes and you're on a fixed income, what's going to happen to you a couple months from now if you're a senior with a fixed income and your property tax goes?
Well, my property tax doubled over last year. It just doubled. It's like crazy. And I can't afford it, but I'm going to pay it anyway. But I can't afford it. You know.
Exactly. And they're. Go ahead.
I mean, you look at the rental amounts across this country. I mean, compared to even like property taxes have doubled. Rental costs. I mean, Vancouver alone. I mean, they made the top notch across the whole country. Victoria was, quietly squeaking right behind. I think they fudged these numbers a bit. Hey, we're beating you. Oh, we're beating you. I rent from a corporate landlord, and I have a really awesome rapport with my manager. She's like so cool. Like when I say so cool, but it's like she gets it. She gets it. Like she says, I just work for them. Like, and she's just the average person. She's like you. She's like, me. Like she's like, Neil. She's been down the block. She's lived in supportive housing. She was on a 12-year waiting list. She finally had got into it at that time. Now she's not. She has her own place, but she can't afford the high rent. She cannot afford it. If she were to move out of where she lives now, she says, Brent, I don't know what I would do. I could not find another cheaper place. Because I said, well, we want to move the hell out of where we live. She goes, I get it. But right now, there's nowhere affordable. You are in a safe spot. If you move, I don't want to see what would happen, right? The rent price
is why I think
$2,500.
That's why I think we need an RGI. Sorry to cut you off.
We do. We do need it.
That's why we need a national RGI. Because think about it very quickly. The average person here in Ontario gets somewhere around $1,250 a month, right?
Yeah.
So let's just say they do double the ODSP in fairy tale land, right?
Yeah. Pink unicorn.
$2,500. Yeah, there's $2,500.
But that would just pay the rental. That would just pay the rent.
The rent now here in Toronto has gone to $2,501 for a one-bedroom apartment. So, double it, triple it, quadruple it, do whatever you want. It's not going to mean shit unless you do a Canadian RGI unit, Canadian RGI unit across the board. Otherwise, you're just going to. You can give me $10,000 and we can talk 20 years from now. We're going to have the same problem, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it. And my corporate landlord totally agreed with me on that. I said I'm going to be having my meeting, and she goes, really? I go, I'm going to lay it on the table. She goes, oh wow. I go, I am. I said, I told her I'm not joking. I'm going to lay that on the table because that's what we need. And I said, I'm going to keep advocating for that. I said, sure, because there was one minister, Dan. I know you watched the show on that one, where I had the former minister, and it's so hard to try to get the information out of them because they can't. They sign an agreement with the government that they can't.
An NDI,
right? an NDI, but quietly he was able to release some information. And the part that really stood out was he was pissed off, he said. And I remember that one line. Remember that, Neil? He goes, "I'm pissed off," he said, because he wanted to change, get rid of the shelter. Exactly what we're talking about now, the RGI. Because you get rid of that shelter, you get rid of that equation out of it, even in Ontario, take that out of the equation. Now PWD now can qualify for, you can now get any other housing. But as long as that little part's in there, I think it's a stipulation. I'm saying, well, you don't have an address, you don't get that shelter. So I don't know who made it up. I think it was made once upon a time, way back when, where the policymakers, whoever designed these programs, they weren't designed. And Kim Pate mentioned that, Senator Kim Pate mentioned that just recently in her speech. I'll have to somehow get that. Maybe we can add that to the YouTube somewhere. But there was a segment just on there. I think it was about a minute and a half into the one speech. I'll find it down. I'll send it to you. She mentioned that these programs were not designed for people with disabilities. It was quite shocking to hear that. I brought that actually to my last the guest I had on there, Cheryl Hardcastle, and I mentioned to her about that part. She goes, and and she acknowledged that these programs, when they were put in place, like, they weren't designed for people with disabilities. And I have to kind of question that, like, why were they not designed way back when? Did they think that people weren't going to develop disabilities or be born with a disability?
Well, they used to lock people like you and me away, though, Brent.
Yeah,
they did. I mean, and that's how the policies were first developed, because people like you and me were locked away.
Institutionalized.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I know a bit about you guys personally, right? But myself, like, I've had a disability since I was 3 months old, right? So I'm 45 now. Is that going to fucking change? No, it's never going to change, right?
Exactly.
But we need people in office, like I say, to you don't need somebody that's going to do 100% of what you want, but if you get somebody that's going to do a little bit of everything, and then everybody, like I said, comes together and works together, then you can work it out, right? But it goes back to what I said earlier. It's just a proven fact here in Toronto anyway, that a lot of people with disabilities, or those with housing and such, like, a lot of them don't vote, and that's what these governments bank on. If you notice, Mr. Ford has never done anything for poor people. He's never done anything for people with disabilities. Why? Because they figure, here's an apartment, here's $500 cash or whatever a month, go away. And that's just not, it's not going to cut it anymore, right? So like I say, I encourage everybody to look into it today. Most important, get out and vote. And I got to get going here in a minute. So I just wondering, any other questions or anything you have? Or
well, Dan, if there's any other questions coming in on there, but if there's no questions coming in, I want to thank you, Dan, for taking the time for coming on today and talking about the the mayoral by-election that's happening today. Get out there and vote, and I'd like to get you to come back as a follow-up, and we'll discuss the breakdown of how the election went.
If I can stop crying after tonight, sure. To me, it's not a personal thing. I really, like I said, I don't care who becomes mayor today. I'll tell them that to their face. I can work well with either Ms. Chow or Ms. Bailao, or if somehow somebody else comes up the middle, but I don't think it's going to happen. But yeah, just get out and vote, and even after the election, like I said, pay attention to the folks that I've mentioned, such as Miss Isabella. She. Great ideas. Even candidates like Kevin Clark. Everybody says, "Oh, this guy he's the one that tore down the stage at the debate when it first happened," right? But if you sit there and talk to these people, they got great ideas. They just need that channel to go through to put it across, right? And that's what we need here in the city: a mayor that can work well with everybody. And I just wanted to make it perfectly clear today too, because I know there's going to be somebody that's going to bring this up. Yes, I am meeting from you in the mayor's office, but by no way whatsoever am I benefiting from this. So each video that I do and everything is just for purposes of education. So for those people that I know that are going to be calling for the 8th time into my office over there, don't bother. There's nothing going on here. There's nothing to see. I just happen to be educating people and trying to show everybody that it is possible to go from here to somewhere up here and help educate people and help, even if you can help one person along the way, you've done your job.
It's a whole domino effect going up. And so it's so important to actually look at who's going to be running as mayor, because from that point on, they can go up to MLA, they can go up to MP, they can blossom out, right? And I know, I've seen it. We had a former mayor who was in Vancouver at the time, years ago. He made his way all the way up to premier, right? We just had our by-election out in BC, and it was for 2 ridings, right? The NDP got them. They got both by-elections. They got them,
and that's precisely what's going to happen today. It all depends on who pulls the vote. So whether Anna or Olivia pull that vote out, that's who's going to win the race today. And I've said it from the beginning. A, it's going to be a female. B, it's going to be a former councillor. What are both of those ladies?
Yeah.
I rest my case, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so it's it's so important. I like our conversation we had today about the Canadian RGI, and so anyone watching this, keep putting pressure on your premiers of whatever province you're in. This is not a federal level, folks. This is provincial level. So I want you to keep putting pressure on each of your premiers, and if they're not answering, they have to listen to their constituents, right? So be very, polite, and professional, right? But make your point across how it affects your life, of how you will benefit from that, right? And it's so important. And if for some reason that you don't feel that you're being represented, go up to your MP, contact your MP, and let them know that maybe now we need to progress this up to a federal level. Start at your provincial level. I'm no expertise on this. This is just advice that I'm giving you because I've been told by some other officials, start at your provincial level, right? Start at provincial, work your way up, right? I think everyone would benefit from that program going forward. Rents, folks, are not coming back down, right? If I look back at history, when I was a little kid, when I did paper route, I would look at my mom and some of my customers would, Brent, I need my paper. They do it in the driveway. I'm basically reading classified ads. Why? Because I'm looking at bike parks. And I kept seeing houses. Oh, okay, what's that? I wasn't even interested. Well, what is that? Oh, $275, $280 for a 1 bedroom. Oh, okay. I'd get home and I'd start asking my mom, what is this? Why are you even looking at that? That's you have a place to live. Right, but maybe eventually, I don't know, maybe I might want something like that. Well, the government will take care of it anyway, so I wouldn't even worry about that. Well, boy, government will take care of it, right? Whoa, boy, we got to hear discussion. But anyway, I looked at the price.
Where's she living?
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. Yeah. Where is she living? Oh, it's.
I got to get going, guys, because I'm being yelled at over here.
Oh yeah.
But thanks for the questions today, and anybody in Toronto, just get the hell out and vote, right? Just do it.
Yeah, we had a lot of feedback in the comments, but we'd be here for another hour if I was to go through them all. So.
Yeah, no problem.
I know a couple of those people. They're great people, and that's what we need. People like that getting involved and getting informed, right? And I look forward to many more to come.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the comments that are coming in there, folks. Keep those thoughts, and then when I get Dan, when I have you back on, Dan, we'll go through some of those comments that are coming in. Have your questions
100%.
up for Dan for next time. If you have any questions, and just watch for Neil Matherson's post. He's going to post out when I'm going to have you back on again, Dan. Might be in a couple of weeks or so. And when we do have you on, just have your questions lined up, and we'll go through. We'll do our best to go through each question, and we'll allow that time to go through them all.
Thanks, Dan.
I look forward to it. And I look forward to meeting either Miss Mayor Olivia Chow or Miss Mayor Anna Bailau in this very office next week.
Right on. And so everyone,
right,
thank you, Dan. Just click and subscribe and retweet. Do whatever you need to do to stay focused on the shows that are actually on. The shows I have podcasts, regular guests on, the Breaking with Brent and the Coffee Time with Brent. you want to keep up with all the daily content, subscribe. Thanks, everyone.
And Mr. Buble.
Mr. Buble.
Come join us.
Yes.
Come join us. I'll sing your song in a chicken suit if you join us one time.
Fly me to the moon.
Thank you so much.
Bye, Ron.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, we'll see you guys.
Okay, bye.
Yeah.